Good, happy Tuesday morning, June 8th, 2021. I'm Riley King, and welcome to this Tuesday morning edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. We have a lot of news to get to this Tuesday morning, so let's begin. First up, we're going to talk about the weather. Heat and humidity return. With more on that, let's go to meteorologist Eric Wiglar with a full weather forecast.
Looking for a great gift this Father's Day? Get to Dick's Sporting Goods for some officially licensed MLB gear. We have everything you need to show off your team pride. Visit your local store for the best.
Thanks for clicking on the WMUR.com. I'm meteorologist Eric Weglars. It is a very uncomfortable morning outside across much of the state. Temperatures, you take your pick, in the upper 60s, if not the upper 70s at this point, and we haven't even hit sunrise. So it's going to be another uncomfortable day, and the real piece to the story here are the dew points in the 60s and lower 70s. So this is very humid, if not tropical territory, and while we'll mix some of this moisture out with the sunlight this morning, I think it's still going to be the most uncomfortable feeling day that we've had in this heat wave stretch, and we'll talk about this in more detail in just a moment. Thicker clouds and some showers and downpours beginning to bubble up from the west, and the trend is for a lot of this action to slide east as we go into the second half of the afternoon, giving us a bit of a reprieve from the heat itself. So this is the final day of the heat wave across the Granite State. Now, we are expecting unhealthy heat conditions to persist across the southeastern part of the state, but I do think we'll have a bit of a cooler end to the work week to enjoy again after we get through the last day of heat here. So the heat advisory continues for eastern Hillsborough and western Rockingham counties away from the seacoast, and the main concern here is now for the heat index. So we're factoring the air temperature and the humidity values at the ground, and when you pair the two together, we're talking about the apparent temperatures ending up in the upper 90s. This is dangerous stuff between, say, noon and 3 o'clock this afternoon. To that point, we'll keep the red icon on locally for the southern half of the state. Points north, it's not much of a concern today, mainly because the air temperatures are only in the upper 80s to near 90, so the heat exhaustion risk just isn't as high compared to the southeastern part of the state. Other thing to note, too, is the clouds will quickly build in from the west as we go into the afternoon here. Wouldn't shock me if that actually helps us alleviate some of the heat as we go into the afternoon. Notice showers already forming across the central and western parts of the state. And you'll notice, too, a lot of these vivid pinks and purples begin to pop up as we go towards sunset. These are embedded thunderstorms that could be strong, but it's mainly a downpour risk given how soupy the air is. And this will continue for a time as we go into early Wednesday midday, as most folks are asleep before a bit of a brightening trend for the start of Wednesday. So in terms of rainfall, it's going to be a narrow corridor of who sees a lot and who sees a little, but I think the potential exists for several spots across the southeastern part of the state to pick up a quick inch to an inch and a half of rain in the heaviest activity going forward. Tonight we'll be down into the upper 60s and lower 70s, so another uncomfortable night of sleeping weather, unfortunately. The good news, once we clear Wednesday, a cold front comes through and, well, knocks us down to a much more early summer-like reality. Highs only in the upper 70s and lower 80s from Thursday through the end of next weekend, and the humidity gets washed away too, so there's some really great news going forward here. Rain is expected on Friday. The real question mark is just how much. There's still a little bit of uncertainty with that. We do know the weekend, though, will not be that bright. Highs only in the middle and upper 70s with a few more showers possible Saturday and then again late Sunday into Monday.
If you haven't heard about HelloFresh, you're missing out. I've been using this meal service for years now, and it's made my...
Okay, and there you go on that weather forecast for meteorologist Eric Wiglar. DHMC Roundtable addresses parent concerns over COVID-19 vaccine in kids. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Over a third of New Hampshire teens and more than half of Vermont teens have already had a first dose vaccine. Northern New England is showing the way.
The pediatric panel from Children's Hospital at Dartmouth says all vaccines are safe. Pfizer for anyone 12 and up, Moderna and Johnson & Johnson for those who've turned 18. Members recommend the shot right away for those with chronic health conditions. They say while considered rare, several hundred children have died from COVID.
The majority of them did have chronic conditions, including asthma, heart disease, neurologic and developmental delays, obesity. So I think it's actually very, very, very important for children with underlying illness to be really at the head of the line.
The pediatricians still recommend masks for children 2 years and older in public places where there's a risk of exposure to unvaccinated people. And they suggest families consider mask modeling.
Parents, although they may not need to wear that mask, maybe they've been vaccinated, modeling appropriate, timely mask wearing for young kids is going to be really important, and to enlist their older siblings who also may be able to be unmasked, to get everybody involved, because we know number of kids will follow along with that.
The doctors say the CDC and American Academy of Pediatrics favor routine vaccines at the same time as the COVID vaccine.
So we can give them together at this point. It's much more efficient, and it creates a situation where it's more likely that people will get the appropriate vaccines that they need.
Trials are underway, and by the end of summer, children 5 years and older could be eligible for the vaccine. Jean Mackin, WMUR News 9.
Anyone who knows me.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report.
$6 million.
FDA approves medications to slow the progression of Alzheimer's disease. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
The first new drug for Alzheimer's in almost 20 years. For the nearly 6 million Americans and approximately 26,000 Granite Staters living with the progressive brain disorder, the Alzheimer's Association Massachusetts and New Hampshire chapter says it's significant.
This is really a very, very important day and a step forward.
The drug aducanumab, marketed as Aduhelm, was developed by Cambridge, Massachusetts-based Biogen and a company based out of Japan. Regulators say it's the only Alzheimer's drug that can likely treat the disease as opposed to managing symptoms.
This therapy slows the progression of the disease because it addresses the underlying biology, one of the hallmarks of Alzheimer's, which is amyloid plaques.
One study showed the drug, which is given by infusion every 4 weeks, slowed mental decline, but it's not without controversy. Some independent advisors warned the FDA the treatment does not reverse mental decline.
There was, of course, some controversy, a very complicated sets of data that many people had different opinions about. But importantly, the FDA actually approved this today under accelerated approval.
Biogen says a year's worth of infusions would cost about $56,000. The Alzheimer's Association says it's working to make sure those costs would be covered.
Try to ensure that both Medicare and Medicaid cover this and that private insurers cover this.
The drug is approved for those in the early stages of the disease. It's not a cure, but it could give people living with the disease something precious.
We talked to so many people with the early part of the disease and said, if I had more time, what I would give for that.
Charisse LeClaire, WMUR News 9.
I didn't order a pizza.
I know, but that Parker promo saved me so much of my insurance. I brought you a little something special.
Parker, State Farm offers everyone.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Pet owners reminded to keep animals cool during this heat wave. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Plenty of water breaks tonight during the Pembroke and Portsmouth girls lacrosse game. Players trying to stay cool during our first heat wave of the season. People are feeling the oppressive temperatures, and pets are too.
Don't work your animals in this temperature. Don't make them stay out for any, excessive periods of time.
Lisa Dennison of the New Hampshire SPCA says our four-legged friends should be kept cool in the air conditioning or in the shade with plenty of water and off the hot pavement.
They're at the end of a leash. They can't tell you. But when they collapse, it's a crisis, and just don't even set them up for failure.
And in weather like this, Dennison says to be on the lookout for pets in parked cars and to call authorities if you feel the animal is in danger.
Where it's 93, 94, 97 degrees, it'll be 140, 150 degrees. An animal will not survive long at all. So please leave your animals home.
In Manchester, some people waited till early evening for a light jog in Livingston Park. Medical experts are cautioning everyone to hydrate with water and be careful of heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke.
You can go from sweating to not sweating. You can be flush. Confusion can become worse. Many other symptoms up to the point of loss of consciousness.
Those very young and old are at most risk, and if someone is suffering from a heat stroke, doctors say they should go to the hospital right away. Reporting live tonight, Mike Cronin, WMUR News 9.
An electric truck that can help build your house.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Harris delivers message in Guatemala. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
Vice President Kamala Harris on her first international trip in Guatemala. Her message tonight to the people in that country: do not make that journey to the U.S., saying the U.S. will help fight corruption and crime on the ground there. Matt Gutman, who has reported from the region on the families and children there, on why parents would risk sending their children, he's on this again tonight.
Tonight, Vice President Kamala Harris in Guatemala with a message: do not come, do not make that journey.
I want to be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border. Do not come. Do not come.
This year, more than 96,000 migrants from Guatemala alone have been apprehended at the border, 21,000 of them unaccompanied minors, more than from any other country.
The goal of our work is to help Guatemalans find hope at home.
This is her first foreign trip as vice president, and tonight she has pledged help from the U.S. to fight corruption and crime, which drive thousands to make that journey north.
We want to make sure that this is about transnational crime, and we have to follow the money, and we have to stop it.
Protesters greeting Harris with their own message. Signs saying, Kamala, they're lying to you. Corruption plus poverty plus impunity leads to migration. For weeks now, we have been reporting on the hardships so many face here. On our journey, we met these children who say they are hungry.
Para cena. ¿Tortilla, solo tortilla? ¿Con algo o solamente tortilla? So Nelson is 11, Aline is 12, and they are about the size of my 6-year-old.
These children telling me they've never eaten meat in their lives.
Heartbreaking to watch, David. Our next stop for Vice President Harris is Mexico. She'll meet with its president. The agenda there very similar to what it was in Guatemala, finding ways of enticing people to stay in their home countries by improving conditions there. David.
Matt Gutman, thanks for staying on this, Matt.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that does it for this morning edition of the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you back here later on today for another newscast. I'll have a news report coming up in a little bit. Goodbye, everyone.